Hello, everybody. I am so glad that you are with me today. I hope that you are having a great day. My name is Brianna, and I'm looking forward to spending this time with you. I'm so glad that you came to join my How to Raise an Emotionally Secure Infant Masterclass. I'm looking forward to being able to spend this next 30 minutes with you because I do know that mom life, dad life is busy and we don't have all the time in the world. So I'm going to make sure I can pack this with as much beneficial information as possible to be able to get as much information out to you. So this is about how to raise an emotionally secure infant. This is an X-Growth training, and I am a life coach with X-Growth Life and Business Coaching. I am specifically passionate about raising infants and about raising kids. I just decided to have, well, I didn't decide, I actually had a 1-year-old about a year ago. I gave birth to him about a year ago, and he is just the light of my life, and it changed my whole perspective. So I am specifically passionate about you. I'm specifically passionate about your child, and I hope that this is something that can just be beneficial to you as much as it was to me. And I realize there has to be other moms out there that are looking for information that is specifically geared towards making your infant emotionally secure. So I just really appreciate your heart, and you even having that desire shows why you are here to raise an emotionally secure infant. So we're going to get started. We're going to get right into it. We're going to make sure that this is something, again, that is as beneficial and as information packed as possible. So I'm going to go through all different kinds of aspects. So a rule here is make sure you're not doing this as a critical or a critic against yourself or in a critical attitude. When we are doing this, this is actually for us to better our parenting. This is not for you to tear yourself down or to look at yourself in a negative way. This is for us to better ourselves. So we are here and we're in this together. You are my friends, and I'm hoping I can just share this with you as a friend would, as someone shared with me, and I was able to learn about this subject. So let's get started. First and foremost in parenting is expectations. A strong belief that something will happen or be the case in the future is an expectation, and a belief that someone will or should achieve something is an expectation. Expectations are so important. And the reason why I'm starting with this is because they are all over our life. There is not something that we don't have an expectation with. The best example I can think of is, say you have a job interview, or you've probably been in the situation where you have an interview for something you're passionate about. You feel like you're going to do great at it. The pay is great. And it's going to be at a certain area of expertise that you know you're great at. You go through the interview, it goes awesome, you get the job. You end up getting onboarded, and then you realize that something changed, that they put you in a different area. The pay didn't change, the payoff or the benefits or anything didn't change, but they ended up putting you in a different area of expertise, which ended up being not what you expected. So what happened when you got what you didn't expect is, a lot of times when employees find themselves in a situation, they work not as diligently, and they lose vision, they lose motivation. And that's why expectations are important, because when our expectations aren't met, it really impacts our performance, and it really impacts how we view things. So I want to make sure that we touch on expectations for us as parents and different things. And I'm going to talk about 4 different key expectations as a life coach that I've realized in parents affect us the most. So as a mom, I've experienced this, and in my expertise and my experience as a life coach, these are 4 expectations that I see most moms and most dads struggle with. So the first one is, expectation number 1 is my baby. Kind of obvious, right? These are some questions under each expectation that we can ask ourselves. Am I expecting my baby to be like someone else's, like his or her sibling, like my prior ideas of what babies were like? What I mean by this is, a lot of times when we got pregnant and we knew we were going to have a baby, we usually have an expectation of what our pregnancy is going to be like, our delivery is going to be like, birth. Then once we get closer, we end up having an idea of what we think our baby is going to look like, and how it's going to go, and all these different things. And where do we get these expectations from? It's a lot of times from a sibling prior, right? Especially if you have more than one child. It can be that you have a friend who has a baby, and she's told you all about her experience, and you expect it to be like that. Or your prior idea of what babies were like from maybe babysitting, you maybe babysat a cousin's child or just cousins in general, and you have an idea of what babies should be like and look like. And that's an expectation, one that we want to confront. While you're with me on this, think about what expectations you may have had for your baby. And if you are a parent at all, expectations that you've already have, I'm sure there's been one or two that hasn't been met. It doesn't take away any of the joy of what it is, but you're like, wow, this isn't what I expected. So as we're going through these expectations, look at which expectations you may have in these areas and think about that. So expectation number 2 is a lifestyle. This is a really big one too. Ask yourself, what is the reality of my lifestyle? And do I have unrealistic standards for my current situation? The reason why this is important is because a lot of times we have a standard for what we think that our lifestyle should be like when we have a child. I think majority of people think of this and have a 1, 2, 3 list of what should be happening maybe before they have a child, when they have a child, and what have you. So what is the reality of your lifestyle? And do you have any expectations right now that maybe don't match what your current lifestyle is? So that's a good one to think about and maybe come up with a few different ideas. If you have a pen or paper and you want to write that down or jot that in your cell phone, go ahead and do that, or just think about it. Okay, expectation number 3 is parenting, of course, right? Did I come into parenthood with an already set standard of my parenting style? Do I view myself as failing or succeeding according to that standard? And what shaped the standard? So with question number 1, did I come into parenthood with an already set standard of my parenting style? Usually a lot of people have an expectation of what they're going to be like with their kids when they have no kids. If you are a parent of multiple children, or this is your first child, I think we've all experienced the person that has no children now, right? And we speak with them and they say exactly how they're going to be with their child, exactly what they're going to not do, right? And we did that too, probably in some instances, either whether it's in our head or outwardly. And then according to that standard that we viewed about what parenting was going to be like, do we view ourselves as failing or succeeding according to those standards? If a lot of times this is what we call mom guilt. I think I always say that there's really a mom guilt for everything. You could be guilty about anything and everything when it comes to being a mom, I feel sometimes. And this is where a lot of times we view ourselves as failing or succeeding according to a standard that we have in our head, an expectation of what we think a mom or dad should be, right? What shaped the standard? Did we get this expectation from another couple? Did we get this expectation from our parents? Believe it or not, back in the day when those family sitcoms were really popular, a lot of people, in my experience, actually shaped family units and parenting based on what they watched on sitcoms, okay? Believe it or not. And we realize that we have this idea of what perfect parenting is like. So let's acknowledge if you personally have any expectations about what your parenting should be like. So just think about these things. Expectation 1, my baby. Expectation 2 is lifestyle. And expectation number 3 is parenting. Do you have any expectations in these areas? All right, and number 4, lastly, is our future. This is always notorious because it comes with a little bit with what we think. Expectations are all futuristically based, but a lot of times this means like a long-term and a short-term future, what we have an expectation for. The most common I see when it comes to future is what you see there is my baby will sleep well by such and such. This usually is taking place when you're not having a good situation with your baby sleeping well, or maybe you're listening to me of your baby sleeping great. Awesome. But the most common that we find, right, in all of the advertisements is how to get your baby to sleep. So a lot of times we have people that have told us, oh, they should be sleeping that by now, right? So there's a future there. And then also that my life will eventually resemble what once was. Because if you have an infant, I'm sure you've experienced the upside down and inside out that it brings to your life. So with that said, is we a lot of times we feel like we got out of complete touch with what reality was before, and so we have an expectation now that eventually, right, this is going to resemble what once was. Eventually, through the sleepless nights or the tears and all the different things that you're learning about having an infant, and all the different milestones and teething and everything like that, that eventually it's going to resemble what once was. So think about if you have that expectation in any aspect when it comes to your future. So we start with expectations, and now we're going to go to what's called realities. Um, Expectations may meet your realities, and that's great. But for most people, and I think the majority of my job as a life coach really is a lot of times dealing, especially in the beginning, with expectations and the reality. So the first is to confront the expectation one about your baby. This is the reality of it. Is your baby is as much of an individual as I or anyone else is. This includes his or her siblings. This includes you, how you were as a baby. This includes every baby you've ever experienced. The baby that you are with now, the infant you have now, is perfectly them. And that is okay. They are have the right to be an individual. There's nobody else like them, nobody with their fingerprints, and they are meant to be an individual. So the expectation that we have that they should be like another baby or another child when it comes to behavior, their milestones, development in certain, within certain parameters, in the sense of, development so relative based on the baby, is your baby's an individual, and that's okay. You have so many trainings and books that sit there and tell you that babies all should be following the somewhat strict guideline or timeline. And really, at the end of the day, they're trying to figure it out as much as we are trying to figure it out. There's some proven things, of course, like for health reasons, but I'm talking about just your baby should be doing this and should be doing that. Every baby is different. And what they take interest in is really what actually boosts their milestones developmentally, and different things like that. So your baby's an individual. Secondly, my life. Your life, my life, looks like what it looks like, and it is possible to fit my new addition, even if it looks different than how I hoped. This is a big one. You're sometimes when you have a baby, some people plan it, some people didn't, it came unplanned, and a lot of us have a different checklists of what we think our lives should look like. And really, that's just usually not the case. Majority of people I meet don't have their life perfectly set before they have a child. Exactly everything that they wanted it to be. Your finances are where they're at. Your job is where they're at. They may have the hours that you don't like, but it is possible to fit your new addition, and more so fit our lifestyle around our new addition, even if it looks different than how I hoped. It can be done, and the lifestyle you have today can be perfect for your baby because it is what it is, and you are meant for this at this time in this season. My parenting. This is another one. My parenting may even be surprising to me, but I am the right person to parent my baby. Again, talking about how we all had that before children talk, before baby talk, where we said, this is how we're going to be, this is how we're going to do it. But then maybe your baby came and your whole world view changed. I know for most people I meet, just their whole world changes. There's not a love like your child, right? Like having an infant, or having your baby, meeting your baby for the first time. Your whole reality changes of what you thought it was going to be like. And when you look into the person that you're impacting with the different decisions that you're making as a parent, sometimes it may surprise us that we feel differently than what we did before. But no matter what you're feeling, you are the right person to parent your child. There's nobody out there that can parent them better than you can when we're healthy and when we're whole, and we can do this. It is also my future. The reality about my future is that my life will not go back to before baby, and that is okay. This doesn't mean I lose who I am. This is so key, and this is a big struggle for me, guys. I just want you to know this. I'm going to be completely honest. For me, I was living life. My son's almost a year now, and I was just living life trying, I think, in some way to get to a point of before baby, right? I was a very independent person before having my child. Everybody's different. This is just me. Yours may be that you were looking to be a mom forward to being a mom this whole time, but some ways, a lot of times we used to look for having a before baby, and that is okay. That it's not going to go back to that. This is a new normal, and it's going to be great. And this doesn't mean that you have to lose who you are and what you do. And if you are just completely loving being a mom and you're like, I don't want to go back to being before baby, that's great too. But this also, second sentence applies to you, is that this doesn't mean you have to lose who you are in your motherhood. You being individually you is what makes you a great parent, impacts your baby, and impacts your lifestyle. And your future won't go back to being before baby, but I can tell you that it can be great. Okay, so I'm sure you got this. It all starts with us. Really, it all starts with us. That's why I start with expectations and realities first, because that is usually the basis of where most of us get hung up, is that we have an expectation, it's not meeting the reality, and then the reality we do have, we don't want to accept. So it's starting with us. A healthy you is a healthy parent. A healthy me is a healthy parent. And it's really important that we focus on ourselves because children are reactors. There are studies upon studies upon studies about how children's physiological makeup is meant to respond. They respond to our hugs, our kisses, our holding, our interaction, our playing, and it all starts with us. They are responders, they are reactors, and we are the initiators. So if it starts with us and we have healthiness inside of us and we are healthy as a parent, then we will have and start to invoke in healthiness in our children and emotional security in our children. So it's really important that we start to realize that what we do in us is what will be done in them. So our emotional mental health, this is a huge one. Obviously, I don't have enough time to really go through all of this and in depth, but I have a few different things that I just know from my personal journey and my life coaching experience that these are things that are key to our emotional and mental health. Is moms, this is hard, and the first one's the hardest, it feels like, is breaks, even just 30 minutes. And honestly, this doesn't mean on a daily basis. I didn't put like a time, how often this has to happen, how consistent this has to happen. Do what works for you. Everybody is a little bit different, and I've noticed that some people really just benefit from a 5-minute break every day. Some people I met do not benefit from a 5-minute break every day, and they need to have a once a week 30-minute break, whatever it works, right? But the breaks really help. Okay. And secondly is counseling. Is if you need counseling, this is going to be, it's nothing wrong with it. I feel like there's a stigma that was before with counseling, but now we're coming to a new place in our culture that counseling is fine. A lot of times when we have our kids and we have our children, it really invokes a lot of our personal experiences and personal things that are going on with us that we don't even realize. Talk about all the different things that are happening on in mom's body right after they have baby, and within the first year, postpartum depression and postpartum anxiety can show up anywhere in the first year. So it's important for me to talk about that. Um, Thirdly, this is actually something that I use in our business coaching. It's called Notice What You're Noticing. The reason why this is important is because you want to notice what you're noticing. If you notice that you are getting overwhelmed, if you notice that you are getting angry or having feelings you don't like towards your child, or towards your spouse, your relationship, significant other, whatever it is, or towards your life, notice those things. A lot of times us as moms, and we just push those things away, and we feel like we just have to keep the ship running, and keeping the ship running is not going to work if we are not noticing that there's holes in the ship. So it's really important to notice where in ourselves that maybe we need a little bit more attention. Another thing is a new interest. Get a new interest. I'm telling you, I just did this recently, and my son's almost a year, like I was mentioning, and I got a new interest, and that has completely invoked a new thing in me and a new inspiration and passion in me. So I really encourage you to get a new interest. This does not mean, crowd your busy schedule with something that's going to wear you down. I'm talking about something that can take you 5 minutes. It can be something as simple as putting together flyers, making, if you're a social media person, making content for that, meeting with other people that have, some kind of similar interest of like crocheting or anything that's just different. Get a new interest, find a mom group, something, right? That they have a new interest that you can decide that you want to do. Getting out more is if you are a stay-at-home mom, this is why I put this in there. And even if you are a mom that goes to work, it both applies, is because a lot of times if moms go to work, they go to work, come home, go to work, come home. Stay-at-home moms, they're working at home and they're staying at home, and they may just run errands. But it's really important that, a lot of times it's just good. Just walk through Walmart, walk through Target, walk through the supermarket, and just get out sometimes is going to help if you're really having a loading day and you really need to let some steam out. And honestly, I have seen a complete 180 in even my infant and many infants when you just take them and remove them from their environment and put them into a new one. It can change a hard day, a rainy day, a stormy day, in the sense of, it's just, we've all had those days with our babies. We're just like, they're going crazy sometimes. We're going crazy sometimes. They're needing stimulation, and just getting out helps. Eating. This is important because especially if you are a new mom, I wanted to do this one for you. Is if you're a new mom, it's not good to neglect yourself, especially if especially if you're breastfeeding, you're going back to work, any of these different things. A lot of times we don't nourish ourselves. So simply eating literally can take care of you in so many different ways. And I realized that a lot of times when I've been a little bit upset or frustrated, I actually haven't eaten that day. So important. Group support gatherings. Again, find a mom group. I have recently looked into one where it was a mom group that studies a certain book that I like, and it's actually one that they can bring their children to. So find one, Google it. I simply just Googled it and found one. Find a group support gathering. If you don't want one that you can bring your children to and you like that to make this your break as well, find a local mom group. There's so many things like La Leche, other different groups that you'll see, Moms Support Moms, and they actually have local groups usually in your area that you can join at a library, and you can pop in and pop out as much as needed. But just get there. It will feel better that you have somebody else that understands what you're going through in this moment, because the first year of life for an infant is so much different than the rest. Okay, our perspective. How do I view this season of my life? This is really important when it comes to starting with us, is we need to view that this season of our life adds versus taking away. Because like I was saying, that children are responders. That means that they respond to our perspective and our worldview. How I gave that job example in the very beginning is that we start to lose we start to lose passion when we feel like we're not in a place that we want to be. This is really important, is that we have to realize that if we view this point in this time of our life, it is the infant years are the first year. I think it's the most adjustment. If we realize that this time of our life actually adds, does not take away, we will change the way we interact with our baby, and we will change with how we're trying to get through just life, and we will enjoy our day by day. And your baby can feel that. The bigger picture, there is a bigger picture in this. This is 1 year. The first infant, infant time is really considered the first year of their life. And this is 1 year. I said with my husband, the other day, I'm like, we have 17 more of these because it's already gone by so fast, and he's 18. And it's so important for you to think about that, as when you're getting overwhelmed and when this is getting frustrating and when this just feels like, oh, sometimes, or you may be just really loving it, it'll make you cherish it more to see the bigger picture. And then the overall timeline, that this is really going to be a big impact. This first year surely impacts the remainder of your child's life. There's so many studies that have been proving that the first year of life and the emotional security that your baby gets can significantly impact their brain growth, the way that their DNA forms, in the sense of it can restructure certain parts of their DNA, and it can actually help with their developmental milestones, their intelligence, and different things like that from their first year of life. This is an important time. Also, that your ability. I understand. I think there's so many women and men, I believe, that are out there that just don't feel like they're able to do it, and they don't think that they are qualified. Um, Honestly, I don't know one person after doing this for this long that has felt like they are just supremely qualified for this. But we can do it. We are able. You even watching this live webinar shows that you have the ability, in the sense that you desire this. Since you desire it, since you're hungry, you have the ability, and you can do this. Okay, and this is another one, is our relationship. This does apply I'm going to tell you, for whether you're single, whether you're in a relationship, married, whatever situation is, and I'll explain how. So we'll first go over the obvious of, if you're married or in a relationship, date nights. This is really hard. Personally, it was really hard for us because we just didn't have the time. We were exhausted. The first year of life is exhausting. So what do I mean by this? Is it literally date night can be right after the baby goes to sleep and you guys go eat ice cream together in your kitchen. That can be a date night. It can be something that you're just doing where it's just fun. Have you noticed this couples here singing in the kitchen? I don't feel like this emulates, the first year of life in most people's life, but you can just do something that's fun. If you are a video game player, maybe play one video game for 10 minutes, whatever it is, and that can be considered a date night. Doing something fun, just for even a small short of time could be a date night. And then if you have somebody that can watch your baby and do the obvious date night, that's awesome too. Okay, once a week of communication. This is important because you may be doing things that you enjoy with your spouse or your relationship or your significant other. But the thing is, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're communicating. One of the hardest things that I've realized, for even myself being in it, even though I've coached people through this. In myself, I realized it was hard because you're you're just trying to go through the motions. Sometimes you're exhausted, maybe. There's certain things that's going on with your baby. So I've met people who have had medical issues, different things like that. And just really the weeks, the months are just flying by. The days are flying by. And you realize that you never even haven't even communicated with your spouse or your significant other. And maybe just once a week touch base. Again, this can mean something very simple of when you get into bed. Hey, how are you doing? Hey, what's going on? I'm feeling this way. If your significant other isn't that kind of person that opens up, maybe just try opening up a little bit about something without an expectation, just opening up about something and then asking a question, something similar. Try to make some kind of one-sweet communication. Another thing is scheduling. This is really important. You know what's helped me and my husband is been this dry erase board calendar on our refrigerator. It has changed our lives because when you have a baby, when you have an infant, when you have children, really, and you guys have different schedules going on, remember you're not losing who you are. That scheduling will really help because a lot of times I've realized, especially with my coaching career, is that there'll be this miscommunication because they're not communicating once a week, right? They're not connecting through a date night. And then also through scheduling, they are realizing that they're missing each other. And then they start to feel like the other person doesn't care because of the constant overlap of scheduling, or one person's, bearing the load of the child more than the other. And really, it could be something as simple as just making sure you have a calendar on your refrigerator and trying to write out everything for that week or anything that you guys know as soon as you get it, so we can plan and make sure that everybody is feeling like they're getting what their priorities are in. I have another friend who does it over their phone. They actually share their calendar from their mobile phones. So that's something good to do there. Evaluation. Check where your relationship is at. If you notice it's been a while and you haven't talked, or something's going on, hey, just check it out. Check it out. See what's going on. Evaluate what's going on with where you guys are at. Another thing is being around other parents or couples with infants. This is so important. I've seen so many couples when they go and they match somebody else. They compare themselves to somebody else. It's somebody that doesn't even have the same situation that they're in. So being around other parents or couples with infants or other moms with infants is really important. And again, this is also something for people who are single, believe it or not. And the reason why is because you can do this with people who are just helping you, that you have any support with. Support is really important when you're doing scheduling, one-week communication, and being around people that can support you is so important. Okay, bear with me, guys. We're almost done here, and I am so glad you made it this far. We're going to go over the process, the 3 steps to change, and I have an awesome opportunity and something that I'm super passionate about that I want to talk about with at the end of this. This is the process. This is something that you can use as a life coach, something that you can use in general for any change. The first step for the process and the 3 steps to change is acknowledge and commit. Identify your areas of improvement. Determine you can and will, right? And so identify areas of improvement. You're already here. If you're on this live webinar, you feel like this is something that you can improve from and benefit from. Another thing is that determine you can and will. Not only that you can do it, you have the ability, but you will do it. And it will eliminate excuses. This means a dog on the bone approach is that just know that when we acknowledge and we commit to something, is that we can eliminate all excuses. It doesn't matter how our parents were, what our experience was as a childhood, we can do this and we can change it for our children. And this is possible. And you can do it, mama. You can do it. So this is the first step of change, acknowledging and committing to the process. Then the second one is get educated, which is what you're doing as well. So great job. You're already on step 2 is get educated. Seek out ways to be informed. Training like the one that you're seeing right now, classes, which we can talk about later, personal mentoring, which I also have that as well. Or I'm sure you have a mentorship that can go around in your local area. And be around better. Be around moms that you like, or be around older couples that have children that you aspire to be like. Be around people that are emulating what you want to be around. And we learn as humans better actually through almost what I would like to call osmosis, which is watching versus actually someone telling. So being around those in your daily life, in your day-to-day life that are doing things that you want to do is going to make a huge difference when it comes to get educated. Because a lot of times you may know that certain things are right, but it's hard to see them unless they're modeled or if somebody can teach you how to work those tools. But lastly is implement. So that's what I was talking about with working those tools is great ideas will remain just ideas without action. This is for anything is you may want to be a better parent. We may want to provide emotional security for our child or infant, but we can't do it unless we make an action. So something like this, like you're taking action. You are watching a live webinar about how to make an emotional, secure environment for your infant. That's awesome. That's a way to implement and to continue to show up through imperfection. This is most important. Is so many people, when they start to implement any kind of steps to change, they don't They expect perfection and they don't want to show up anymore when they realize they're imperfect. And that doesn't matter. I want you to know we're going to make mistakes. Say this with me now. I'm going to make a mistake. And that is okay. But the point is showing up still. I'm telling you, in my son's first year of life, I have apologized to him. He don't speak English yet, but I have apologized to him within his first year of life just because I believe that even in my imperfection, I can be there to support him and to show him and know, hey, mom doesn't make all of the right decisions all the time, but we can learn to be better, and it's no excuse to stay in the same place. So if you follow these 3 steps to change and in the process and stay committed to it, you'll notice an amazing difference. So lastly is what we have here is how to raise emotionally insecure infant masterclass. I hope you feel like at least the expectations, the realities, and the process is something that you can implement today. But I do have something that I personally have never offered on such a wide scale like this. I am a one-on-one mentoring coach, and that's something that I love doing. But when I realized that there was such a need for this, I was urged and pushed to do this, and I was so passionate realizing that there's so many of you who have signed up for this live webinar, and it confirmed to me that this is such a need. What you get in this masterclass is 4 live training sessions with replays. So just like you're hearing me right now, we would have 4 different ones, and we're going to get into the nitty gritty of how this would actually work. We're going to talk about studies, what's going to benefit your child, how to do this on a day-to-day basis, whether you work, whether your child's in daycare, whether you are a single parent home, multi-parent home, whatever the situation is. I'm going to talk about practical ways that's easy to apply in these 4 live training sessions with replays. Another thing, this is amazing, is a 30-minute personal strategy call. I will personally speak with you individually, and we will come up with a strategy call for how to create an emotionally secure infant or emotionally secure environment for your specific baby. I want you to know I'm passionate about you and how your baby is implementing all these different things that you're going through. I'm passionate about you and your child, and I want you to know that I will give you 30 minutes of my personal time just to speak with you about what's going on in your guys' life and how we can actually implement these different things that we're talking about in these live training sessions. The next thing is that these are intimate sessions, only 3 to 5 students per class, because since I'm giving so much individual attention, I want to make sure that everyone gets enough attention. And so there's only 3 to 5 students per class, so the space is limited. And right now for the next 24 hours, it's 50% off. I care so much about people getting this information. I wanted to make it 50% off because to me, it's not about just the price of the income. It's about the impact. And I wanted to make this applicable to everybody. And that's why I also say there is that if you see that funds are an issue, you can just email me at brianna.xgrowth@gmail.com and we will work with you. So 50% off, guys, for the next 24 hours. It's only $497 for all of this that you're getting, 4 live training sessions, an intimate study session, an intimate study of students and other people and moms that you get to meet, a community, because we all know that this can be isolating, and a 30-minute personal strategy call. I am doing this because I want to make sure that anybody can get this information, and I care about you. And hopefully you can feel and know through even this webinar and through my tone of voice is that I care so deeply about this area of moms and the first year of life. And so if you need anything, and if this is something that you can actually do, I'm here to provide as much as I can in my full expertise in hours and hours and hours of research and condense it to 4 live training sessions. Again, if funds are an issue, email brianna.xgrowth@gmail.com. I appreciate your time. I hope you found this live webinar something helpful, and please let me know if there's anything else that I can do through email. And I'm looking forward to seeing you in this masterclass. I know you're going to love it, and I promise that there's going to be some turnaround within me and within you even in this class. Bye-bye.